Hi everyone, we're moving on to next chapter. It's chapter 15. We will be covering the next market structure, that is monopoly. Monopoly is considered as an imperfect market. So its first important characteristic is that it's a sole seller which dominates the market. And there is one more definition which is that the firm should have around 30% of market share. So generally the examples include WAPDA, Standard Oil, railways, even De Beers. De Beers has around 80% of market shares and it can affect the world market diamond prices. Even your local cable TV operator has monopoly. Now you would say that there are so many cable operators in the city, but remember if there is one cable operator in one town, it means they have a monopoly. But if there are many cable operators in one town, then definitely they won't be having a monopoly. The second one is price maker. So unlike perfect competition, you are not a price taker, you are a price setter. Third one is unique product. So definitely your product is differentiated. It's different from other firms. This is a reason that you are a price setter. If you had so many substitute or your product was homogeneous, then you can never have profits like a monopoly. And there are no perfect substitutes for a monopolist firm. Fifth one is that there are high barriers to entry. So the reasons include that first of all, it is very expensive to set up a monopolist firm. The second one is usually government does not allow or give license to have more firms in a specific big business because definitely a monopolist earn a lot of profit, and if there are many companies offering the same commodity or same product or even same services, the profits would be distributed. So generally, government does not prefer having a monopoly. And then one important trait is that it has a usual downward sloping demand curve. It does not have a horizontal demand curve like perfect competition. So for monopolist, you cannot separate demand from the supply. Remember, monopolist charges a very high price. So in order to increase its total revenue, or in simpler words, if they want to increase sales, they have to decrease prices. And the marginal revenue is less than the demand curve. For the basis of comparison and your convenience, we have two demand curves. One is of perfect competition and the other one is monopoly. So for perfect competition, you are already aware that you are a price taker, you are not a price maker, you have no influence over your price, and your commodity is not unique. It's a homogeneous good which everyone usually sells. So that's why your demand curve is a horizontal straight line, which equals to price and equals to average revenue, marginal revenue, and demand curve. But for monopoly, curves are not same. Remember, monopolist offers a very high price. They are not price takers, they are price makers. Apart from that, their commodity is not homogeneous. Their good is unique and there are no close or perfect substitutes. So that's why the demand curve is the usual downward sloping curve, which also exhibits the idea of law of demand that in order to sell more units, a monopolist should decrease the price. But if monopolist stays on a very high price, definitely then they won't be able to sell a lot of units. And as you notice, marginal revenue is not equal to demand curve. Marginal revenue is less than the demand curve. The same curve would be for monopolistic competition, but we will cover that in detail. For about now, you should just know about perfect competition and monopoly. Beginning with monopoly's profit case, you start with the basic curve, that is the demand curve, which is downward sloping for monopoly. And then you draw a marginal revenue, which again is downward sloping. So remember, marginal revenue is less than the price and the demand curve. And the reason is very clear. Usually monopolist charges a very high price to maximize profit. So in order to sell more units, monopolists have to decrease the price. So when they decrease price, it means they're able to sell more because less price means more customers. So as they're decreasing price, their additional revenue also decreases because definitely they're decreasing price, so the revenue would decrease, but they would be able to make more sales. So that's why demand curve and marginal revenue are typically downward sloping, and marginal revenue is always below the price and demand curve. So then you draw the usual curves, which is marginal cost. You go up and down, that's marginal cost, and average total cost curve, which is U-shaped. So the first important question is, what is the profit maximizing quantity and price? So the rule is same, profit maximizing price and quantity. First of all, it's the point where marginal revenue cuts the marginal cost curve. So this yellow point depicts intersection of both points. So your profit maximizing quantity is 15. But what is your profit maximizing price? It's not 5. You do not have to go parallel to this point, but you actually have to go up, hit the demand curve, and that's your price, which is 20. Remember, demand always generates price. It's not perfect competition that the profit maximizing point is exactly parallel to the monopolist price. This is a usual mistake which every student does. So for price, you always have to go up and hit the demand curve, and there is your price. For average total cost, you have to go up and hit the average total cost curve, and that's your ATC, which is 5. So for profit, it's the point above ATC curve and below the price. If you want to know the total revenue, you have to sum up the profit and total cost, so you get total revenue. This whole shaded area is your TR. So as you notice, monopolists offer a very high price. Definitely it's not efficient for the society because you're not producing at an efficient point, and even at a higher price, customers would not be able to buy the commodity. So definitely this will create a dead weight loss, which is depicted by this triangle. Monopolies are inefficient because they create dead weight loss. Because you're not producing at socially optimum point. Socially optimum point is at quantity 30, which is a new point where marginal cost curve intersects the demand curve. So if you produce at this level, definitely it's good for the society because you're producing more and many customers are able to buy at a lower price. But if you charge a very high price above social optimum point, which every monopolist does, so it always create inequities and deadweight loss. That's why we say monopolies are inefficient.